Ben Shapiro thinks that acknowledging the identities of trans people is denying biology.
Why aren't you 60? And why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
A person's age determines their capabilities far more than their gender does. So having more stringent standards with regard to acknowledging age makes a lot more sense.
The idea behind the transgender movement as a civil rights movement is the idea that all of their problems would just go away if I would pretend that they were the sex to which they claim membership. That's nonsense.
I have never heard any trans person ever say that all of their problems would go away if people simply respected their gender identity. This is a straw man. However, refusing to respect a person's gender identity does exacerbate their problems.
The transgender suicide rate is 40%. It is 40%. And according to the Anderson School at UCLA, it makes no difference. There's a study that came out last year. It makes no difference, virtually no difference, statistically speaking, as to whether people recognize you as a transgender person or not.
I'm not sure what Ben is talking about here. The Anderson School is a management school. I can't find any study on trans people and mental health that the Anderson School has ever done, and why would they? The connection between that subject and the subject of management seems pretty tenuous. When I Google Anderson School trans study, what comes up is a study by the Williams Institute at UCLA. Perhaps this study is the one Ben intended to reference. However, if it is, it actually says the opposite of what Ben is claiming. That study says that one of the biggest factors distinguishing trans people with the highest suicide rates from trans people with lower suicide rates is rejection, discrimination, victimization, and violence related to anti-transgender bias.
Which suggests there's a very high comorbidity between transgenderism, whatever that mental state may be, and suicidality. That has nothing to do with how society treats
you. Do you think it could be because of they're bullied at school?
No, I don't think that. I do not think that the discrepancy. I do not think the discrepancy. First of all, I'm against bullying of any sort. Okay, the idea that somebody would beat somebody up is terrible. Okay, as somebody who's viciously bullied in high school, I'm not a fan of bullying. But the idea that the normal suicide rate across the United States is 4%. The suicide rate in the transgender community is 40%. The idea that 36% more transgender people are committing suicide because people are mean to them is ridiculous.
It may not be the case that all of the suicidality in the trans community is accounted for by the way they are treated, but the evidence seems to show that a significant amount of it is.
It's not true, and it's not backed by any science that anyone can cite.
Let me quote that study again. It says, 2 interrelated risk factors appear to be most strongly related to suicidal behavior among transgender and gender nonconforming adults. Rejection, discrimination, victimization, and violence related to anti-transgender bias and serious mental health conditions. If rejection, discrimination, and victimization is not people being mean to trans people, I don't know what is. It may be the case that trans people are more prone to mental health problems, but since those problems appear to be interrelated to problems of discrimination, it could be the case that anti-trans bigotry contributes to those mental health problems. The evidence does in fact show that at least some, perhaps not all, but at least some of the suicidality among trans people is caused by the bigotry against them. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.